Okay, well, welcome to the Prosperous in 60 live masterclass and how to get more consistent cash flow in your business, how to have more free time, and really how to design your dream business. And I want to welcome everyone today. Today we're going to be focusing on. I want to share with you 5 strategies for boosting your persistence. I think persistence in business is probably one of those categories that people don't spend enough time talking about, but it's the one characteristic that all entrepreneurs seem to have. When you look at the successful ones, persistence is that key. So that's why I want to talk about it today, because I think it's so critical to your success. So the first, and these probably aren't in any order, but persistence gets results. The fact of the matter is, when you keep trying things, you're going to have failures, and sometimes those failures are the exact thing that brings results down the road. I've heard it's been said that Thomas Edison, before he was able to get the light bulb working, he failed over 13,000 times. And I think about that, and I think, man, I mean, at what point do you give up? I mean, and so he just kept going because he knew 13,000 ways, and I could be off, could be 1,300, okay? This is the first story that came to mind. But he knew all the ways that it didn't work, and he continued to strive using that knowledge. So persistence brings results because you learn things that don't work. Anybody who is on this call or will watch the recorded version is either in business today, trying to grow their business, trying to get more customers, trying to get repeat business from previous customers, trying to make more money. I mean, ultimately, and persistence, I think, is the thing that is going to bring those results that you're looking for. The number 2 is persistence. It sets you apart from everyone else. Most people quit. It's a fact. If I have some friends here in Jacksonville, and they own Bailey's Powerhouse Gyms. They're the Baileys, Don, Dave, and Daryl Bailey, 3Ds, but they own a very, very successful chain of fitness centers, and I think they have 6 or 7 locations. And I know them from back in my locksmith days, back in the early 90s, when we used to cut keys for all their members. And at that time, they had about 13,000 members. Today, they've got well over, probably in the 40,000 member range. And what I have learned from them, and most people in that business, in the fitness area, know that there is no way that if 45,000 people came to their fitness centers, there's no way they could house them all. But yet they sell tens of thousands of memberships on January 1st, in and around January 1st. And by February, those people never step foot in there. So the reality is, persistence sets you apart because most people quit. And the old saying that, quitters never win and winners never quit. That's a fact. I mean, when your goal and your vision is clear enough, that it's the very thing that drives you, then you need to keep on, keep after it. Look, anybody can quit. Quitting is always the easy way out, but persistence is the thing that is going to set a quitter apart from a winner. And it's the thing that I think quitting is cowardice. Now, when is it okay to quit? And that's something that, if we're going to talk about persistence, when is it okay to quit? When you're doing something that isn't working, you need to sometimes regroup. And I'm going to talk after we talk about persistence here a little bit about how to sort through and create a system in your business. I'm going to cover just a real, a short way of going after that. But so, persistence, like I said, gets results. It sets you apart from everyone else. Now, the third point or strategy to boosting your persistence is persistence builds character. Like I said, giving up takes no effort. I mean, anybody can give up, but and giving up, I guess, gives you a false sense of relief that that you've completed something, but in reality it's just it's going to make you feel a deeper subconscious rooted belief that you have failed, and you'll know it. Your subconscious mind will know it. So character starts and builds a muscle in your brain, and that character, because persisting builds character. That tells your brain and your subconscious mind, if you're active in any of my courses, one of the first things that I cover, whether you are in an online coaching client, or you're in an online course, or whether I'm coaching you one-on-one, one of the things that I cover is the mindset. And I cover a lot about mindset. And the reason for that is because I believe that all success generates from mindset. So when you start out building character through persistence, you're programming your mind, your subconscious mind, that, hey, whatever we start, we are going to find a way. If we're going to come into obstacles for sure, but we're going to go over it, around it, under it, whatever it takes. We're going to push through to the end result. And what's the end result? I mean, what does your business look like when it's done is a saying that I say all the time. What does it look like when it's done? Well, you've got to know what that result is that you're striving for, because that's the thing that you're persisting for. And when you get it, that's where your character meets your goal. And I think that's that's always the reason to strive, is when you clearly know what your goal is. So, and then certainly persistence always offers some measure of success. Now, that doesn't mean necessarily that you'll have success in everything, but but there's always some level of success when you persist, because it's showing you the things. Like, I'm going to use an example of, I like to use a smoker, for making, food, whatever. Sometimes we'll smoke a beef or pork ribs or even salmon. I love smoked salmon. But when you're trying to learn something, sometimes you're gonna, you're trying to find your way, and persistence forces you to have some measure of success, even though you may fail. And you know what? I was listening to Gary Vaynerchuk, one of his 2-minute videos earlier today, and he was talking about, go ahead and fall on your face. If your failure is the thing that that you're afraid of, that your friends are going to know you failed, or your mom or dad or your cousin or your wife, or it doesn't matter who it is, but if you can just go ahead and screw it up and get it screwed up in the beginning, get it out of the way, then you can now you have no place to go but up. So persistence does offer that level of success, because you're hanging in there, and you're accomplishing as you go along. And so the reality is, if you're going to have I guess look at it from a standpoint of persistence is always offers a level of success. Well, then I'm going to look for the success in the failure, and that's where you're going to get. You're going to get that from persistence. Now, there's always I'm going to put in a I guess you'd say a fifth method of persisting, which is how to create a system around persistence and around forcing yourself through, and to get to the end result. And I like the acronym. Well, there's no acronym actually, but it was IPDE, which was taught in driving school back when I was a teenager, and it was they taught you to identify, predict, decide, and execute, and that's how you're going to your drive. So when you see something, you identify what's going on, you predict what the other driver is going to do, then you decide what you're going to do, and then you execute. Well, when it comes to persistence, I think you have to identify not only the problem, but you have to identify the result you want. And so you start with identifying the problem. And now this could be a problem in your business. It could be a problem for your clients or customers. But this is how you create a system around the things in your business. And you're going to want it. So you look at it, you identify the problem, but you also want to identify the result that you're looking to have, because the result is okay, I see this problem, but what is the end result? And then you want to predict. You want to look at, okay, how bad is this problem and how bad will it become? And literally lay that out. Okay. I mean, I've got this, let's say it's a money problem. Maybe you're on this, watching this today, and you're really struggling financially. And I can tell you that every single entrepreneur that has ever made anything big has hit points in their life where they were really struggling financially. I can tell you I've had some times in my life where things were very tough. I had a business that grew to do 100 million in sales around the world over a period of time, over a long period of time, over a 19-year period of time. But then through a series of bad decisions and some events, bad decisions on my part, the company filed for Chapter 11. And when you're used to making a lot of money, and then a court says, well, you can't make that much money anymore, it becomes very challenging. And thankfully, I had other investments, but I still had to take a massive cut in pay. And so, I had at that time look at how bad the problem could become. And then I had to look at how good the problem, how good the outcome could be just by fixing the problem. So again, identifying the problem, identifying the result you want, predict how bad the problem can be, and how bad it can become, and then how good it can be by fixing the problem. Okay. And then you've got to decide at that point, okay, what can I do about this problem? What's my plan? You want to create a plan. What are the steps to get to fixing that problem, to get to the result you want? What is the plan? And so you're going to lay out and I'm telling you, you do this with everything in your business to create systems, whether that's the systems of emailing or systems of, this is a quick shortcut to creating systems and including systems around persisting. Okay. And so you decide what you're going to do about this problem, and then you're going to create a plan. What are the steps necessary to get to the result that you want? And then finally, you got to execute the plan. You got to take action. Action is the one thing I think that often a lot of people, I can tell you that I have had many downloads of ebooks that I've written, or videos and audio, all sorts of different things. I have a lot of downloads. And I can tell you that, I believe that in many of those, many of them, I create content that I believe can help you and your business and your personal life, and help you get more cash flow and more, more consistent cash flow and more free time, and really design your dream business. But a lot of people listen or watch videos or, download ebooks, but they never take any action on what they're learning. And I think that's the key, is when you have a plan in place and you're going to persist, you've got to execute the plan. You're smart enough to create your own plan, but now that you've got the plan, you got to execute the plan. And sometimes that goes on a long time without the results that you're looking for. And I want to use, I'm going to go back to when I was in high school, and I worked for a indoor batting range, and it was called Mike Hegan's Grand Slam. Mike Hegan was unfortunately he died several years back, but Mike owned this indoor batting range, and he was a Milwaukee Brewer, and so he lived in Milwaukee. He played for other teams as well, the Yankees and a couple other teams, but he played for the Brewers twice in his career. But Mike Hegan, I worked for him, and what was cool about working at an indoor batting range was I was a big-time baseball player, and when the floors were vacuumed, the bathrooms were clean, and everything was, all my activities were done, he didn't care how often, as long as nobody was in the building. And a lot of times, there were times during the day, 1, 2, 3 hours, where not a single customer in the building, and other times there'd be, 500 people in the building. But during those times, as long as my job was done, I was allowed to go and pump coins into the, tokens that I could hit for free. And Mike would come in on occasion, and he was so cool, because he would, he'd be like, no, don't stop. Because I wasn't supposed to, hit if anybody was in the building. But he's like, no, he always said, don't stop. And then he'd come up and he would just say, all right, you're swinging upward, and if you're swinging upward, you're trying to hit home runs, and if you're trying to hit home runs, you're going to be a very bad batter over a long period of time. Now, Mike had a 20-year career, and with an on-base percentage of 341, which is phenomenal, a slugging percentage of 371, but he was never a home run hitter. But he was always, think about that, a slugging percentage of 371, meaning that almost 4 times, 4 out of 10 times that he got a hit, it was a double or a triple or a home run. Okay, and I can tell you from the way Mike taught me to hit, that it was a double or a triple. Those were the things that he did well. He hit to the gaps, and that's what he taught me to do. And during my junior and senior year, after working for Mike, I was able to carry a very high slugging percentage. Now, granted, I wasn't playing in the majors, but my slugging percentage was like 580. And why do I bring this up? The reason I brought it up was not because I had a 580 slugging percentage. It was because I hit so many balls, thousands and thousands of balls on a weekly basis. And at that time, I played baseball with Craig Counsell, and who was 2-time MVP of the league in professional baseball. And Craig used to always compliment me, because at that time I was substantially better than Craig. He was a year younger than me. But that being said, the reason I was good was because I kept hitting all the time. I worked for an indoor batting range. I was hitting all the time. Well, that's persistence that comes out on the field. And if you want to be really good at what you do, you have to keep hitting. And that means persisting. That means, that meant sore hands. That meant, all of those things. And when you do that, you're going to create habits that when it's game time, that those habits are already created, that it looks like you're really good when you get to the field. But in reality, you practice so much that when you got in the game, that you produced a good the right result that you were looking for. It's the same with your business. When you're going through the motions, the struggles, the things, and Scott earlier in the call had brought up how he's created. Scott is in Prosperous in 60, and he is he's got a good coaching business. He helps car dealers really become profitable because there's no money in selling cars anymore. The money is in looking at your dealership as a whole, and really learning to make money from the service department and parts department to enhance the profitability of the dealership. And I believe that every dealership that would, could benefit dramatically from Scott's coaching. But the fact of the matter is, obscurity is the only thing that will keep Scott from having a massive business. What do I mean by obscurity? Is simply that if those clients don't know that Scott can solve their problem or make their life better, then Scott he could have the best products or services in the world. If the people don't know about it, he won't have the business. And so what was said earlier with Scott was, he's making some videos, much like I'm making a video right now. And this is a tutorial on business. Well, when you start making videos, it doesn't feel comfortable. I mean, of course it doesn't. But persistence and doing the same thing. I was listening to Stephen Westner, who has a podcast called Onward Nation. And Steve was talking about how the average podcast viewer, I got to grab my notes here, but the average podcast will quit after 7 episodes. It's called pod fading, and I think it's kind of funny because that just shows you that most people in business quit. Well, the reality is never quit. That's what this is all about, is the persistence. So when things don't feel good, when you're doing your first videos or you're creating your first lead magnets and they don't feel like they're right, just know that this is just the start of something. 20 years from now, you'll look back and go, yeah, some of those, I know some of the videos. If I look at some of the videos I created when I was in the energy management and power quality business, and I was doing training videos on sales training, and some of those videos that I have that are old were not very good, but some of the content was still very good. What I mean by, I'm talking about the quality of the videos, the sound quality and things like that weren't that great. And I've got a lot of room for improvement still. But my point is, that's what the persistence does, is it makes you better. As time goes on, you're going to get better and better at what you do. So, and I think that comes from, a couple of key points. One, you got to believe in yourself and what you have to offer. Belief in yourself is, it's not to be confused with arrogance. Arrogance never works out long term. There was a point in my life when I felt like I was fairly arrogant. I'm talking to my business life, and I think that's that was the beginning of my downfall in one of my companies, not because of the arrogance so much as that I didn't think I didn't adapt to the market. And I'll use this is why you have to believe in yourself and what you have to offer. I'm going to use Kodak Corporation, Eastman Kodak, as an example. Eastman Kodak actually in the 1960s invented basically the first digital camera. And but think about that for a minute. In the 1960s, a digital camera. And what they felt was that they were going to stick with film. And they didn't jump onto this new trend, that was going to become the digital camera industry. And now, think of the technology we have on a smartphone. I mean, the technology is unbelievable. And the megapixels that you get out of a smartphone today is eons what anything happened early on. Well, I think when you cross into arrogance is when you're not refining yourself, you're not persisting through, taking on more failures, because it's ultimately those failures and predicting the market, predicting what's going on in the market. When you're not accepting failures, you think you've got it all figured out. I think that's when you get into trouble. But believing in yourself is not arrogance. That's just, you've got something that your clients, your prospects, you have something that they need, and that's what you got to believe in what you have to offer, because it's going to come across to them that, hey, I've got something that you need, and you've got to you got to believe in that, okay? Because if you don't believe in it, then you're not going to be able to sell it to me for sure. So the second thing is keep trying new things. You got to keep, when you're trying to get something accomplished that you haven't accomplished before. Let's say your goal is to make $1 million in gross sales in your business. And I can remember it was 1999 when I did my first $1 million in sales in a business. And what was amazing is I had done about $750,000, 500 to $750,000 in a separate business that I had. I started a company in 1998, and in 1999, a separate company from startup to $1 million in just under 2 years. And I can remember when I did that first $1 million, I was like, man, this is the most unbelievable thing ever. But immediately I set a new goal. So, and I knew to get to 2 million. See, most business owners who do $1 million, most never cross the $1 million or the $2 million mark. Most. I mean, it's that for most business owners, they never cross the 1 million in sales mark. But the ones that do, of the ones that are left, it's like 99% never cross the actually $2 million mark. And I think that's because they don't keep trying new things. But in order to get to the $1 million mark, you're gonna have to try a lot of new things. And so as long as you believe in yourself and in what you have to offer, you got to keep trying new things. And that's, again, this is where persistence comes in. You're going to keep trying things until you find something. And this is the thing when I talk about marketing a lot. Look, when you have a lead magnet that works, this is so important. When you have a lead magnet that works, meaning for every dollar you spend, it brings in $2. You will be able to grow your company to any size that you want, because now every time you spend $1, you're going to double your money. Well, it doesn't take very many months before you're spending 10, 20. I mentioned on the Profitability MD podcast yesterday with Matt. I was talking to a potential client who is spending $140,000 a month on advertising, but he's bringing in 10 times that a month. When you have something that's working, the amount of money you're spending is not relevant because it's bringing money in. So you keep trying new lead magnets, new things, and then when you get one that works, it's bringing in more money than you're spending to acquire that customer. Then your business can grow, but you got to keep trying, okay? And that's the thing. You got to keep swinging, okay? I think the third thing to creating a persistence attitude is really redefining what failure means in your life. Failure is it's all in how you define it. Well, even a major failure is, if you look at it as a learning experience, then you'll have a completely different look when you're willing to fall on your face, when you're willing to do that enough times. And you say, okay, that's just one way that it didn't work. I'm on my way to creating the business of my dreams. And I know I'm going to have these failures along the way. They're going to be they're going to be learning, learning experiences for me instead of failures. I'm not going to look at them as failures. It takes money. You have to invest in yourself. You have to invest in your business. And when I say it takes money, you got to invest in things and they don't work out. I mean, that's just a fact. I've invested, I don't know how many hundreds of thousands of dollars in coaching and online platforms and all these different things. Some of them didn't work out so well, but I can tell you that that doesn't stop me from continuing to hire coaches. I have a coach, right now, Ray Edwards, who's I work with, closely to become a better copywriter. And Ray, when you hire him as a coach, is not inexpensive at all. But at the same time, I learn a lot from him. And I learned, I had Dan Sullivan as a coach. I was in strategic coach for many years and spent, $8,000 a year after year after year, spent a lot of money in strategic coach. And not everything that I learned in strategic coach did it work out. But what I mean is not everything, there's things you learn that weren't applicable to my business, but I had redefined failure in my mind. Failure meaning everything I tried didn't work. But that's the point. You need outside influences to, so that you can try new things. And that's what redefining failure is all about. And then you always got to keep, the fourth point is you got to keep getting back up. I mean, no matter how many times you get knocked down, you only have to get up one more time. And that's again, this is, if you read my book, Intestinal Fortitude, basically it's all about what I learned from my gymnastics coach. And it's a really good story. It's a really short story. I'd be happy to send you a free copy of the book. If you'd like a copy, just let me know. And I'd be glad to send me an email at info@davidmulvaney.com, and I'll send you a copy of the book. But it's a really, really good story about how the mindset of keep getting back up, keep over and over. That's again, it's a persistence trait, but it's willing to fall on your face and continue to get back up. One of the stories in there I talk about was when, one of the things that we would do at the end of practice, you usually did this once a week, we would do back handsprings, and we would just do them over and over and over again. The winner, the one who did the most for the longest, wouldn't have to do calisthenics at the end of practice. So sometimes our practice would go, and we'd literally be going for hours on end. And when you're going hours on end doing back handsprings, it's very hard on the body. At a point, it just becomes mind. And just mind. And all I created at that moment in time was what I call this one more theory. And the theory was, I don't know how many more I can do, but I know I can do one more. I know I can do one more. And so every time I would get back on my feet, I would say, okay, I'm going to do one more. And I throw my hands back and feet right over after. And I just keep saying, I can do one more. I can do one more. And the hard part is when everybody you're competing against has the same attitude. But I can tell you I won a lot because of that attitude of just wanting to do one more. And you'll find that Olympians, and you'll find that successful entrepreneurs and professional athletes, they all have that same trait, is I'm going to do one more. I'm going to strive to do one more thing by the end of the day, one more sales call. I can remember talking to a friend. I'm like, look, when it's 5:30 at night and you're on your way home and you see that BMW sitting in the parking lot, and it's the only car in the parking lot. The reason it's the only car in the parking lot is because that's the owner. And I know it's 5:30, but that's the owner. And it might be the only time you can get to the owner. It's the only car in the parking lot, but it's 5:30. That's the time to do that one more call. That's the time to, when it's the end of the day, how you want to reach the client you've been trying to reach. Well, sometimes it's the last call of the day. Sometimes it's that last email you send of the day. That's the keep getting back up theory. And that's what is the thing that brings success, is usually when you just get back up one more time and you do it one more time. And then this is a big one here. Don't listen to naysayers. Okay, there's enough of them out there that people that they have nothing positive to say. I'm almost at the point in my life where I want to just turn off some things on social media because there's so much negative. I'm tired. I don't want to read news anymore. All of that is naysayers. Okay, why do you think the news promotes the sky is falling all the time? Because negative news sells. That's the fact. Negative news sells. But that's not the way that's not the way the entrepreneurial world works. You can't sit and listen to negative people and naysayers and think that doesn't have an effect. You got to protect what goes into your mind and that happens from not listening to people who tell you. I can tell you, if you want to drive me, you tell me I can't do something. That'll push me harder than anything else. I'm like, screw it. I'll do it in spite of you. I'll do it because you told me not to, even if it meant, whatever, doing the wrong thing. That's the whole nother thing. But don't listen to the naysayers. They're not, they're not the ones that are in control of your destiny. You are. And so you've got to kind of close them out. You got to take them out of your, out of your sphere of influence. So, persistence is, I believe, probably if it's not the number one ingredient to success, it's certainly up there in the top 5. But, so keep at it, don't give up, success is usually just one more call, one more lead magnet, one more, Facebook ad, one more LinkedIn ad, one more connection on Twitter. You just don't know where your one more is, but that's what persistence brings. It brings you to that goal that you're trying to achieve. So I have, I will gladly open. I'm open to any questions, and if we don't get any questions fairly quickly, I will simply end the call. But that being said, if you're signed up for this, every Thursday at 4 p.m., I'm going to be doing a similar format, and you're welcome to send in your questions before. You will get an email copy of this video once that's done, and you can review it if you like. But the thing I want you to know is that why do I do this? I do this because I believe that you are close to success. And if you just have somebody who's not a naysayer in your life that tells you that you can do this, you're going to get there. And whether you're trying to get your business to $1 million in sales, or whether you're trying to take your company and add 3 million in sales to it, this is the type of thing that can do that for you. So I haven't seen any questions come in, so I'm going to go ahead and end the call. You can always send questions to info@davidmulvaney.com. This will be posted at davidmulvaney.com, and I wish you all tremendous prosperity in your lives and your businesses, and I want you to have consistent cash flow and more free time to enjoy your life and the business of your dreams. All right, we'll talk soon.